History is not a straight line marching toward progress. It is a pulse, a rhythm, a living thing that breathes, expands, exhausts itself, and then transforms into something unrecognizable. Civilizations are not built the way monuments are built. They are grown like forests. They take root in uncertainty, stretch upward through competition, and eventually shade themselves into weakness. Power follows the same biology. It is born fragile, becomes muscular through struggle, and then, almost imperceptibly, begins to stiffen. When we speak about East and West, we are not describing geography. We are describing two halves of a single system, locked in a long metabolic exchange of ideas, resources, fear, and ambition. The mistake modern observers make is assuming that today's tensions are new. They are not. They are the latest expression of an ancient process, the circulation of dominance across the world's body. Every civilization begins as a solution to a problem. Rome solves chaos with order. Imperial China solved fragmentation with bureaucracy. The early modern West solved scarcity with expansion and mechanization. In each case, power emerged not from superiority, but from adaptation. The West did not dominate because it was destined to. It dominated because it learned to harness energy, coal, steam, oil faster than its rivals, and then built financial, legal, and military systems capable of projecting that energy outward. The East, meanwhile, carried older, deeper civilizational memories, centralized governance, long-term planning, social continuity. For centuries, these systems existed in parallel, occasionally colliding, often misunderstanding one another, each convinced of its own permanence. But permanence is an illusion. History punishes relentlessly. When a civilization reaches its peak, it mistakes momentum for immortality. Institutions that once enabled flexibility harden into dogma. Success rewires the mind. Risk aversion replaces experimentation. Power becomes something to defend rather than something to regenerate. This is where decline truly begins, not with invasion or economic crisis, but with internal calcification. The late Roman Empire did not fall because barbarians were strong. It fell because Rome could no longer metabolize change. The Qing dynasty did not collapse because the West was technologically advanced. It collapsed because its internal systems could not absorb that advancement without fracturing. The pattern repeats because the biology is consistent. The modern West constructed an order after global catastrophe. Out of world war came institutions designed to regulate conflict, currencies designed to stabilize exchange, alliances designed to prevent another systemic implosion. For a time, this order functioned like a healthy circulatory system. Capital flowed, trade expanded, innovation accelerated. But systems that succeed too well begin to overextend. Debt replaces productivity. Financial instruments grow more abstract than the real economies they claim to represent. Political legitimacy erodes as decision-making drifts away from lived experience. Meanwhile, the East, particularly Asia, absorbed the rules of this order, learnt its mechanics, and began modifying them. Not to overthrow the system outright, but to survive within it long enough to reshape it. What we are witnessing now is not the rise of one side and the fall of another. It is a transfer of adaptive capacity. The East invests in infrastructure like a long-lived organism strengthening its bones. The West invests in narratives of past dominance, mistaking memory for strategy. Technology accelerates this imbalance. Artificial intelligence, supply chain control, rare earths, data sovereignty, these are not tools of conquest in the old sense. They are organs of the future economy. Whoever integrates them most efficiently will not conquer territory. They will shape reality. War itself has become less about firepower and more about systems disruption, psychological endurance, and economic resilience. This is not weakness. It is evolution. Civilizations that survive are not the most powerful. They are the most adaptable. They sense environmental change early, They reform before collapse. Forces reform upon them. The danger for any dominant power is believing that its values are universal laws rather than context-specific advantages. The West's greatest strength, individualism, innovation, open exchange, becomes a liability when cohesion dissolves. The East's greatest weakness, centralization, conformity, becomes an advantage when long-term coordination is required. These are not moral judgments. They are structural realities. History does not reward virtue. It rewards alignment with the environment, and the environment is changing faster than any previous era. Demographics shift like tectonic plates. Energy transitions destabilize old hierarchies. Information moves at speeds human psychology evolved to distrust. In this pressure cooker, alliances strain, narratives fracture, and power reveals its true nature, not dominance, but dependency. Every empire depends on something it does not control. Rome depended on grain. Britain depended on trade routes. The modern West depends on trust in currency, in institutions, in the idea that tomorrow will resemble yesterday. When that trust erodes, power does not vanish overnight. It leaks, slowly, quietly, until suddenly it is gone. The East-West relationship today is not a Cold War replay. It is a systemic rebalancing. The East does not seek to destroy the West. It seeks to outlast it. The West does not seek to collapse the East. It seeks to preserve a system that once favored it. This tension produces friction across every domain. Technology bans, trade realignments, cultural mistrust, proxy conflicts. These are symptoms, not causes. The cause is deeper. Two civilizational organisms competing to define the operating system of the future. One optimized for speed and disruption, the other for endurance and control. History whispers a warning here. Civilizations that cannot reconcile their internal contradictions project them outward. External enemies become convenient explanations for internal decay. But the real battle is always internal, between adaptation and nostalgia, reform and denial. The future will not be decided by who is stronger today, but by who is more honest about their own fragility. Power that understands its limits evolves. Power that denies them fossilize ease. As the world watches East and West circle one another, the question is not who will win. The question is, who will change in time? History has already written the outcome for those who refuse. The past is not behind us, it is inside us, testing whether we learned anything at all.